think about this. We organize our day around making plans, around making preparations. Do we all make lists? Mm-hmm. Do we all have goals? Mm-hmm. Are we checking off the boxes? Mm-hmm. I did this, mm-hmm. So you've made all these plans, but what happens when all the plans sort of fall apart? Have you ever had that happen? Mm-hmm. So many times. So hopefully you had some backup plans. But I mean, what happens when all the plans completely fall apart? We have control over making those lists, yes? But you've heard this before. We have no control over what happens to us. What we do have control over is our attitude and how we approach the events that happen to us. Again, high school taught me this lesson when I was in your shoes. I found out toward the end of my junior year that we were moving from the East Coast to the West Coast. Talk about culture shock. And I only had 4 weeks' notice. I was really sad and really scared. I was walking around campus and I happened to encounter a teacher who knew I was leaving. And he said, "Terry, let's talk for a minute." I guess it showed that I was really scared. We were by the football field, and the football field happened to be empty. We were walking around and he said, "Moments come and they go, but memories last forever. You are the only person that can control the attitude that you're going to have with this new change. So pack the memories that you have now and prepare yourself with a positive attitude for the new memories you're going to create yourself." Well, I packed his words into my mind. We arrived on the West Coast, and for months, I was not happy. I felt so lost and alone. I was not trying in any way to acclimate myself to my new environment. All I could do was look at my watch and remember what my friends were doing back east, how they were doing it, and looking at this new place and thinking, I don't like this. I wasn't trying at all. And then suddenly, my teacher's words of encouragement and his advice to have a positive attitude came back to me, and I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I better do it and do it now. So I embraced my new home, I changed my attitude, and suddenly a whole new world opened up for me. I met all kinds of new people, and instead of wanting them to do what I thought should be the right way from what I had experienced before, I embraced the newness. And I had, although it was not the senior year I expected, it was very special and has stayed with me all of my life. So remember, you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control your attitude. So I'd like to give you an example. And a wonderful way to do this is to read books, look at signs. How about sitting on a bench? We just happen to have a bench here, and it's beautiful. And I'm thinking that perhaps you noticed something. Anybody want to tell me anything? So perhaps you noticed my skirt. Yes? I have a story to share with you about what happened to me when I sat on a bench here at Peninsula. It was my first week of work. It was a gorgeous July morning. It was about 8 o'clock. The sun was peeking out over the H building, and the grass was green. Back then, we did not have a drought, so we watered the grass. It was sparkling. It was gorgeous. So I walked outside, and I happened to encounter a colleague. She was having a bit of a rough day. And I said, you know, why don't we just go sit on this bench? Let's really appreciate this beautiful day. We're going to sit right here. We're going to appreciate the view. And let's pretend we're in Tahiti. Okay, that sounds good. So I sat down. She went to sit down. She braced herself like this. And suddenly she went, you got it, wet paint. Oh, Terry, I am so sorry. Don't worry, school district will pay for it. Brand new skirt, my blue very lovely periwinkle denim skirt. So I'm sitting there on the bench, right? And her hand is full of paint. And I said, so I stood up. We looked at each other. I turned my skirt around and I can't do it right now, but I said, you know what? All I could say was, isn't it beautiful? And really, look at it. Can you see? It's beautiful. The taupey brown on the periwinkle. There's really nothing wrong with this skirt. The fabric's great. Everything's fine. I'm thankful I have a skirt to wear. I've got it. I'm going to wear this skirt to school. And I'll call it my attitude skirt. And so I did. And I thought, boy, people might think this is a little odd, but let's go for it. I used it. I wore it to the first presentation I did for the English faculty department meeting. And I stood around and wrote my things, and people were, oh, what is this lady doing? I wore it into the Hawthorne office, and somebody came up, and just like you, was feeling a little uncomfortable. Should we tell her? Does she know? This is terrible. So he tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, Terri, I think there's something. Go look, there's something on the back of your skirt. I said, yes. Isn't it beautiful? It's my attitude skirt. He just looked at me, shook his head, and walked away. So I've used this for many speeches that I've given across the country at various conferences and with different students. And their reactions were very much the same as yours. But the common thread was to stop. It made them stop, ponder, and pause. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control your attitude. Thus, you sit on the bench to take time to think about it. Don't rush this process. It takes time. Now, I know that all of you, when you hear that word, college, it causes your stomach to rumble a bit. So I have a thought for you. In the college admission process, you will visit many places so that you can start to get a sense of what's good for you. So when you get to a college campus, what do you see? Lots of benches. So find yourself a bench, have a seat. Now here's the hard part. You have to do this, you have to sit alone. If your parents are with you, you send them off to the bookstore or the coffee shop where they can take a walk. You're going to sit there without any electronic devices. You may not have your phone, no iPad, no iPod, nothing. Just sit there alone. You can have a pencil and paper and write notes. When you're sitting on the bench, what do you see? Do you see mountains? Do you see a lake? Do you see ducks? Do you see students talking? Does anyone stop to say hello to you? Do you see tall skyscrapers? Do you see blue sky? Is it raining? Is it snowing? Is it 110 degrees out? What do you feel? What do you like? Remember, when this process is all done, you are going to be finding a home away from home. You're going to wake up in the morning, and I don't know what order you do this in, but hopefully you will brush your teeth, you will get dressed, you will go to class, yes, yes, and you will be living there for 4 years. Think about that. You want to find a place that fits you and fits you in a good way. So again, it doesn't happen really fast. You have to take the time. And I think as high school students, you're so used to rushing and being busy. Take the time and stop. And here's a formula that another teacher gave me when I was the parent of 4 growing children, which kept me a bit busy. And here's the formula. S equals R over E. Serenity equals reality in conjunction with expectations. This formula aligns beautifully with the wonderful words of wisdom of John Wooden. He was an amazing human being who truly made the world a better place. He was a teacher and a basketball coach, and he wrote a wonderful book that I recommend all of you read called Wooden. His premise was, his favorite quote was, make each day your masterpiece. Don't strive for perfection, but strive for your personal best each day. So I leave you with that, and I want to challenge you to do these 5 things. Find your bench, sit on the bench, appreciate the view, put your hand on your heart. You can do that right now. Feel your heart beat. Take the time to appreciate it. Think of something that you're grateful for, and then let your attitude guide you. Thank you.